Hey Ray, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. This is another video in our series on TypeScript. In this video, we're going to be talking about some new features that were included in TypeScript 3.7. But technically, these are features that are not even in JavaScript yet. These are actually not even at the newest specs. These are going to be released in ES2020. So they're slated to be released in JavaScript, but you can already use them today in TypeScript. That's the great thing about TypeScript. You get all the latest features of JavaScript right away. Okay, so basically when the committee approves some new, so we have I think there's 8 proposals that are going to be released in 2020, they're going to be added to TypeScript earlier. So you can always pretty much be doing your leading edge code right away, and it gets compiled down to compatible JavaScript. You know, sounds awesome. And these are actually pretty awesome. Okay, the first one's called optional chaining. So first, let's illustrate what used to be the problem. Okay, so actually let me set up my terminal. Boop. Let that open up. Yep, okay. So what used to happen is that, let's say I have an object. So my object is, we'll say my obj equals data 1, which equals 1, data 2, which equals 2, etc. Okay? And then what happens is that I thought it had 3 pieces of data. Okay? So I want to take, say, let's do something like this. Like if, you know, my variable, what's it called? Const. So let me add my const, or else TypeScript's going to get mad at me. You know, because TypeScript wants me to be a better coder. Thank you, TypeScript, for believing in me. Okay, const my var. I want it to equal my object dot data 3. The thing is that there is no data 3. It's going to come up as null or undefined. It doesn't exist. So the problem is it'll throw an error. Now this used to happen to me a lot with API calls. So I did this project where I needed the pet finder API, and I wanted to show a picture for every animal. Most animals had a picture within the object of the animal. Okay, of the animal that was up for adoption. Some of them didn't though. And instead of just having an empty property, it just didn't have the property at all. So when I iterated over the array of animals, it would error when it came across those ones that didn't have it. And I'll tell you what the old solution was, but here's what would happen. So let me run this so we can see the error. So it should error. And you try to, because you think it would just assign undefined to my var, but no, it should error. So I'm gonna do node, so that way it has the old JavaScript behavior. So node practice.ts. Okay, let that run. Well, I just didn't do, oh, because I didn't try the console log anything. Okay. Let's see here. Console.log my var. Might not actually be airing out at the moment. It comes out as undefined. But in the particular example I'm talking about, you had an error. Basically, it would try to create an HTML tag, an image tag, and would throw an error when it ran into an item that was undefined. In this case, Node's just letting it assign undefined, which would be nice in most situations. So what I had to do to solve that problem with the API is that I'd have to check if the variable was there before I did the assignment, before I actually took an action with it. So actually, if I did this, like +1, this should, I think, throw the error. I think if you're just assigning, it'll just assign undefined. But if you actually try to do something with it, not a number. Okay, it would throw a runtime error in my situation. So again, the idea is that I had an API of an animal that gave me an array of pets, and some pets had the photo property, some of them didn't. It would throw an error. So what I had to do was check for the property. So basically what I had to do was do this. If then I would do my obj dot data 3. So basically I'm checking to see if it exists, because if it was undefined, that's falsy. So basically it would evaluate as false. If it evaluated as truthy, so it had a value of some sort, then it would run through. Okay, and do the thing. Okay, and then I would actually assign it. Let's say cut over here. Then I would assign it. Control Z, Control X. There we go. And then else it would just do nothing. It would whatever. Okay. Now there's one slight problem when you're trying to do these tests, because there's the whole thing of what's truthy and what's falsy, and undefined isn't the only thing that's falsy. So theoretically, if that variable was 0, which in some situations you may want that number 0, it would be treated as false and take the else route, or not run this piece of the code. So it wasn't perfect, and plus this is bulky. So what they've done is they've come out with a new syntax. So I can do something like this. So Control Z, 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 Z. So let me get, instead of having an if statement, what I do is I just do this. Okay. I can just stick that. Let me just double check, make sure if it's in the front or the back. Yeah, so you add it to the back, just like that. And what this means is that it's going to test, well, does my object exist? If it does exist, do the thing. If not, don't throw an error, just move on. And what if I want to check the property? I can do it again. So I can actually just do this all the way down and keep checking. Okay, does this exist? So if there was an object in data 3 and I have to keep drilling down, I can keep putting these little question marks along the way. And if for some reason the property doesn't exist, it won't throw an error, like an error. It'll just move on, which is very nice, especially in those situations. So in that case, I could have just used that photo property, just stuck that question mark at the end, done what I was doing, and it wouldn't have thrown an error the times that the animal did not have a picture, which would have saved me a lot pulling my hair out, because back then I still didn't know a lot of the workarounds for those kind of things. So that's pretty cool. That's called optional chaining. It's not in JavaScript yet. Will be in 2020, but it's already available in TypeScript. Okay, so that's what that does. Then there's Nullish Coalescing. I think is the phrase for it. But basically what this is you want to make and assign a value, but sometimes, just kind of like I was doing here, you assign the value of something that's undefined, and you don't want to assign the value of that. So in that case, in the situation where it is undefined, you may want to assign something else to it. So in that case, using that, picking that example of the photo, what I may, instead of just printing the variable of the photo right away, and using the optional chaining operator to make sure it doesn't throw an error, I could have done something like this. I could have been like, picture equals my object dot data 3. Okay, and then done this. And then maybe put in like, and then maybe I throw in like a default photo. Okay, and then this here would be the URL to the default photo. So if this is undefined, so it doesn't exist, it'll throw in sort of my default, like, hey, there is no photo. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like on MySpace when you had that little gray silhouette of a guy. And you could do this before. What you would do is you would use an OR symbol. That was sort of the old solution for like a default value. So basically, the way you evaluate it is, I'm going to assign this, but if this is falsy, then do this. Assign this instead. The problem with this, again, comes back to that truthy and falsy issue. Things like 0 would evaluate as falsy. So what if this did have a value, but the value was 0, and you wanted 0, like that's the actual, like, for example, you have 0 items in your inventory for like a game, it would automatically go to the default value, which is whatever you set your default value to be. Okay, the Nullish Coalescing operator basically only checks if this is undefined and maybe null. So I think but if it's 0, or like false has an actual value, it'll still assign that value to this. Okay, so only if it's like absent the value. So again, like null or undefined, not false or 0, which would then again trigger the, when you use the or symbol, which is current standard practice, it would trigger the alternate. So basically now in TypeScript, you can use those two cool features. So I can use that, or before this. Okay, and you can prevent those errors, and your syntax would just look a lot cleaner. So more reasons to be using TypeScript, so that way you can get access to these kind of syntactical awesomeness sooner. But again, that's optional chaining, so that's sort of putting the question mark at the end of different object attributes or different variables to make sure that if they don't exist, your code doesn't error, and just kind of continues going. And the other thing was the Nullish coalescing, where basically replacing, sort of creating a kind of a default value that that's not as strict about what's falsy, in a sense. So the two question marks. So hopefully you guys found that interesting. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Head over to alexmercedcoder.com and subscribe to my YouTube channel and all that fun stuff, because there's a lot of other cool TypeScript stuff I'm going to be covering. And again, this all just means being better at TypeScript just means you're better at JavaScript, and that makes everybody happy when it comes to web development. Yes, so learn your TypeScript. It'll get you rewarded for the holidays. I don't know. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great one.